The network of waterways in the river basin formed the voyageurs' northern route, the superhighway of the 17th and 18th centuries. Located in the heart of Ottawa, the district of Vanier represents a pocket of Francophone culture within the nation's capital. During Ottawa's 150th anniversary in 2005, the city announced that it would soon have its first Francophone museum. Museopark. As the name implies, it's a museum in a park. Richelieu Vanier Park is an integral part of the museum and its activities. Its 17 acres of maple grove, gardens, and landscaped grounds include 1.5 kilometers of footpaths. The park also boasts the world's only sugar bush operating in an urban setting, right in the core of Ottawa. The Museopark is committed to researching and preserving the history and heritage of Vanier, Richelieu Park, and Ottawa's Francophone culture for the benefit of current and future generations. The earliest known maps are from the late 19th century and show the area that would eventually become Vanier. Clandeboye became part of Janeville early in the 20th century. Then, in 1909, Janeville merged with Clarkstown to form Eastview, which incorporated as a town in 1913. The population at the time was 3,000. Travel between opposite shores of the Rideau River got much easier in 1836, after the Cummings family bought an island, thereafter known as Cummings Island, where they erected a general store and built a bridge to connect the island with both sides of the river. Local residents could stock up at the Cummings General Store and conveniently drop into the post office, which was the first to serve Ottawa East. It was only in the 1850s that Francophones began settling in the area north of Janeville. Most came from Quebec, but also from France. It was the beginning of Clarkstown. With the rapidly expanding population and the arrival of Father François Xavier Barrette in St. Charles Parish, people had a stronger sense of belonging. The wife of Prime Minister John A. Macdonald laid the first stone for St. Margaret's Anglican Church on Montreal Road in 1887. Thanks to the efforts of Father Barrette in the early 1900s, a route was cleared to lay the rails for streetcars which would be the pride of Beechwood Avenue. From the late 1800s up until 1964, freight trains traveled along what is now the Vanier Parkway and went across the Rideau River on the Black Bridge, so called because of the coal that the trains carried. Richelieu Park, with its maple grove and sugar bush, is still a well-guarded secret. The White Fathers of Africa, an order of missionary priests who arrived on the property in 1936, began to develop a maple grove and sugar bush in the 1950s. Many guests since have been treated to its products. Today, Action Vanier is responsible for preserving and developing Richelieu Park's maple forest. Our natural heritage, the park, the forest, the landscaped grounds, deserves our attention as much as our built heritage. Nowadays, we're more aware than ever of the importance of urban forests. They allow us to breathe purer air. Without the filtering effects of photosynthesis, our air would be dirty and thick with atmospheric pollutants. Every spring, rising waters caused the Rideau and Ottawa rivers to overflow. Beginning in 1954, Eastview arranged for the City of Ottawa to dynamite the river ice in order to prevent flooding. Ottawa collaborated with riverside municipalities on a city redevelopment plan in order to prevent or limit overflowing of the rivers. Land redevelopment plans also led to a focus on the future. During the late 1940s and the 1950s and 60s, Eastview experienced a record boom. The 1970s and 80s also brought grand ideas, such as converting the town's core into an actual commercial district. One proposal was to build a colossal business center after tearing down any structure in its way. Fortunately, this project never materialized. And today, we still retain many buildings that are part of Vanier's heritage. Richelieu Vanier Park is one of Ottawa's true gems. The White Fathers finished building their Scholastica in 1938 on the site of today's Museopark. The building was torn down after the city of Vanier purchased the property in 1978. Imagine for a moment what this real estate would be worth today, and the museum space it would provide for research, preservation, and exhibitions if this structure were still standing. But it was simply replaced by a parking lot. The Montfort Hospital owes its existence to the Montfortin Order of Priests, Filles de la Sagesse Order of Nuns, who arrived in 1887 and 1888 respectively, even though construction of the hospital didn't begin until 1941. Eastview contributed to the war effort in both World Wars. A large number of residents worked in factories that were built to supply munitions. The Royal Canadian Navy even christened one of its frigates HMCS Eastview. Eastview's heyday, in the late 1940s and the 1950s and 60s, was boosted by the arrival of the Dominion Bridge Company, which created 150 new jobs. Now, one future project for the area is to build some 800 housing units on the former Dominion Bridge property by the year 2010. Eastview, which referred to the view of the east from Ottawa, has certainly changed a lot since its creation in 1909. Many mayors, municipal administrators, and councillors have come and gone. In the past, Eastview was divided into several districts. Today, Vanier itself is a district of Ottawa. For several years, some large families would have their names recognized and associated with Eastview's and later Vanier's municipal councils. Today, the names Grand-Maître, Lavergne, Perrier, and Crête are recognized as the builders of the city of Eastview and of Vanier. By the time Eastview's population reached 22,000, it was a virtual bastion of French-Canadian culture. Two-thirds of its residents were francophone. Seeking recognition of the new linguistic reality, Mayor Gérard Grand-Maître had the name Eastview changed to Vanier in 1969. He thus paid tribute to Major General Georges Phileas Vanier, Canada's first French-Canadian Governor-General, who had died 2 years earlier while still in office. In the 1950s and 60s, a large number of francophone residents were forced to move out of Lower Town, Ottawa, presumably so the area could be updated and commercialized. The francophones relocated on the other side of the Ottawa River, in Hull and Gatineau, and on the other side of the Rideau River, in Eastview and Orleans. The following years brought teeming development. The Grand-Maître legacy continued at City Hall with Mayor Bernard Grand-Maître, under whose leadership Vanier would become known across the country as a major francophone city. In 2006, the Ontario government marked the 20th anniversary of the French Language Services Act. The act was the culmination of some 30 years' work by former Vanier Mayor Bernard Grandmaître, first in his capacity as MPP for Ottawa-Vanier, then as Ontario Minister of Community and Social Services, finally as Minister responsible for Francophone Affairs. Currently, the Honourable Madeleine Meilleur is responsible for enforcing the act. Up until a number of years ago, historic buildings were destroyed simply because heritage wasn't fashionable, and it was cheaper to tear down an old building than to rebuild or renovate it. Unfortunately, heritage buildings that are leveled to the ground are very rarely rebuilt. Positive side, the Ontario Heritage Act now gives municipalities and concerned citizens more powers to protect heritage buildings. In 2005, the Honourable Madeleine Meilleur, then the Ontario Minister of Culture, pushed through amendments to the Heritage Act to make it even stronger than before. Knowledge and experience need to be preserved today, so that our grandchildren and their great-grandchildren can know their heritage and celebrate the 150th anniversary of the Vanier Museopark in the year 2155. With the end of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st, a new kind of heritage has emerged: the technological heritage associated with cyber museums. From now on, this technology will make it easy for anyone with a computer or a cell phone to become familiar with history and heritage. To remember means to act so that others may remember.